Hello, welcome to Guys Like Us. Whether you are a longtime listener or a newbie to our show, you have found a podcast about all things that you can experience when you approach, a certain age where you start to feel the actual age in your knees and your joints sometimes, and where you also know how to, how your perspectives have shifted, and you want to talk about that. So you will hear stories about friendships, relationships, leadership, and some of the lighter things of life. In short, the things that shape us and continue to move us forward. And we're so excited that you're here. And today's topic is about ambition and parenthood. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm doing fine, Mark. What a great intro you just did.
That was
amazing.
a great.
I'm just very happy the internet didn't bail on us because you were like getting very, very shady here. But yeah, I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
That was great,
Mark.
I'm fantastic. So
in New York.
Yeah, actually, I'm in Jersey City right now. Yeah, it's.
Sorry for that. Yeah.
No, I'm looking at a beautiful New York. That was a nice intro. It wasn't bad. I heard you you wrote that quickly, huh?
I did write that quickly. Yes.
Yeah. between wipes of toilet paper.
Let's not get into this. Yeah?
No.
You have to use your time, as you have it.
Hey, listen, that's how it goes. But man, it was how was your week?
Listen, it was an exciting week. Really exciting week, obviously for us, because we did launch our podcast to a broader audience by posting about it on LinkedIn, which also obviously drove way more people to listen to our podcast, which felt very scary, to be honest, on the night before we actually did that, or that Monday night, and felt great ever since then. Because I guess because no one told us or told me that we're complete idiots, and it really, really sucks. I guess that really helped.
Yeah, I mean, it really helped me too that no one.
Which I think we did a whole episode
idiot.
of saying, it doesn't matter what other people think, blah blah blah. But actually, it's kind of nice when people don't think you're an idiot.
And everyone knows exactly that this is a whole bullshit episode. They know exactly this is all about working up the courage to release the thing.
Exactly.
Well, I got to tell you,
that was great, and I was looking at numbers all the time, and so it's fun. It's been really fun.
I've been having a fun week too. Obviously, this was a big centerpiece for it. I felt like, it's a good reminder. Just putting things out in the world is better than not, and you could see a lot of the great enthusiasm and direct notes, people we haven't heard from in a long time, and so that was really cool. It feels like a nice little milestone in our project here.
It does. It really, really does. No, it was fun, and I love this. And I had a super weekend as well with my daughter's birthday. We're going to talk about it later as well, maybe in the later stage of the podcast. But before that, yeah, let's see. Are you sponsored by anybody today? By any chance?
So I am not, and which is a big faux pas, and I have a good reason for it. I'm in the public space of my brother's apartment building. I couldn't get into his apartment for to be sponsored by anyone. So but I have a good idea of who I'm going to be sponsored by after this, because I'm going to need a few drinks. There's a nice Chablis that I brought my brother and Marc open, so it's going to be a good one. Yeah. What about you?
Is your brother? Maybe I'm not sure we can talk about this, but do you know those friends where you bring the wine and you really hope you're gonna drink the wine you brought and not the wine that you think is gonna be there, and then you kind of and then the people are like, so what should we drink? I have this here and that here, and you actually brought the wine chilled. So it's kind of, if you bring a chilled bottle of wine, I think that's a sign, right? You want to say, hey buddy, we should drink this tonight.
I'm so glad you brought this up. Totally. We should do, there's a whole topic on wine etiquette for parties that I'm very happy to get into. So you know, there are
Let's
some
put this on the
where
list. I'll put it on the list.
yeah, but I just want to answer your question directly. My brother will usually open what I bring, unless it's a party where he's obviously selected some wines and I trust his taste that it will be out there and what I it's an even swap, you know.
I mean,
But
I obviously
have
didn't
I
want to,
been to
put your
parties?
brother out there. I know your brother, and he's a good man for wines. But there are people that that might not be, and just don't, you know,
Oh,
care so much,
we've all
or
had
have the
the
taste for it.
experience.
Who
Yeah,
cares?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Mm.
last year I brought over a really beautiful Louis Saint Georges to just like a classic house party, and some guy just threw it in the ice, like in the ice bucket. It was like, wait a second.
Mm.
Oh well, you
Oh, I
know.
remember very vividly from my parents. They had some friends where my dad would really basically go there with like a 6 case of wine, because like I can't drink what these guys have. Like, but he was shameless. He told them, it's like, I'm not gonna drink this shit. This is why I brought this, and they were all
Uh,
laughing. It's like, that's okay. Stefan is coming. We know what's gonna happen. He's gonna bring his own drinks, but okay,
oh,
fine.
that's funny. Well, we had these neighbors who were like really like full on Americana, and they would go to my dad sometimes, like, oh, Wolfgang, what's a great white wine for us to serve at a dinner party. And my dad just basically tossed them. It was like, I think the brand was like Kendall Jackson, which is this massive brand label. He was
Mm,
being kind of
mm,
sarcastic, like a
I know that.
Chardonnay.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course,
yeah.
it's like a thing you would know. And I mean, he feels so stupid because, of course, not only did he get Kendall Jackson every time he went over there, that's what he got as gifts from them, for his birthday, for his
Yeah.
for
The only
fucking
problem,
Christmas.
only thing you really have to be careful then is not to gift it back, right?
Oh yeah,
That also happened. I've done that before too. That I kind of keep kinda keep the wines I don't want to drink in a special place that I know is like to give back, but you just have to be careful you don't give it back to the same people, which obviously I did.
ah,
Um,
ah,
and it's like, and they actually called me out for it, and it's like, yeah, 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 yeah. I don't drink red wine. That was kind of my. That was my. I probably then had a bottle and a half.
yeah,
To
exactly,
be hours later.
exactly right.
But anyways, in the moment, I thought I had gotten away with it. In any case, all right. So much for that. I am sponsored by an Austrian tap water
Oh
today.
my God, we're so boring today.
So
Well,
same here. So and
it's
my
Sunday.
excuse is it's Sunday night. I had a long weekend, and I think that's gonna be the problem of us recording on Sundays, that we can only fictionally speak about our sponsors. But in any case, Austrian tap water is fantastic. A Vienna tap water, especially one of the finest in the world. We can do an episode on this. It'd be very boring, but in any case,
Well, what
that's
is it?
that's
It's
that's
it's
our
podcast
sponsors today.
17. So it's podcast. It says episode 17 of not actually being sponsored by a proper winery. So we're gonna work on that. I think, and by
Yeah,
the
no,
time
we
we get
had
to
we had
100,
others before. We had others before. I think it's fine. I think it's fine. I mean, listen,
that's
we
all
also
good.
have to look out for ourselves.
Well, listen,
On
you know
that
what I have
note,
behind me?
yeah, go ahead.
Have you
Sorry.
noticed?
Yeah.
There's another reason why I have to stick with some water today, or not indulge, just because I've got a sleeping kid behind me, because it's been a crazy day, which relates to our topic. It's Sunday, it's rainy. I had big plans, and suddenly, I'm with the kids and other people's kids and other kids, in the science museum that is as busy as my brother has seen it. And everyone is, you know, kids are running around playing with dinosaurs,
A
and this is
kids
fun.
museum on a rainy day in November is an
It's a
absurd
circle of
idea,
hell.
but
It's a
okay.
circle of hell.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean,
it's like going to IKEA on a
I'm
Saturday
so
morning when
angry
they have
about it.
sales. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not even crazy. I was reminded, that great Nietzsche quote, he who has uh a powerful why can endure anyhow, you know? And I was thinking, the children are
Mm.
definitely a why, a purpose, but the how is
Mm.
really, yeah, you really need to get through it in some powerful way.
All right, very deep. So, but how does it relate to our topic today, my friend?
Well, I thought it was really kind of interesting, especially, and we're in different stages of parenthood. We should say that. I think my kids are 4 and 1, and yours are 13, 11, and
7,
9.
9, 11.
7, 9, 11. Okay, off by 2 years. Okay, so different phases, and what I thought would be really kind of healthy to talk about is the tensions I think we often feel between our own personal ambition and raising kids. And I think there's the ambition of career, there's the ambition of making, and I found myself and finding myself increasingly trapped, I think, between the time that slips through your fingers as you're raising kids, but also just the headspace that kind of zaps and shrinks, for anything really meaningful between execution on jobs and managing kids. And I'm wanted to get a bit of your take on that because I feel like we we have such high aspirations for ourselves, and very often it feels to me that what gets in the way of delivering on that is our own family. And it's a funky transition, like, just to name it, you know. And I'll even preface this by saying, I am I need to acknowledge that I think moms always have the hardest job. I think that dads obviously would contribute a lot too, but this isn't just about who does what. I think it's about one's hungering for impact in the future and how to balance that with being also the parent that you want to be.
Man, that's a huge question. That's a huge question. And you are, I think you're talking to a man with two, that has two very distinct, I think, phases in my life, and the way I look differently at this now than I did 10 years ago, or 11
Mm.
years ago when I became a father. And just, before I say my piece, we did a bit of research on this before, right? And there are so many. Funny enough, I was looking through some reels again on Instagram, and I saw, some other dude, and I'm gonna share it then on Instagram as well, who talked about this. And there's so many people that when you ask them more towards the end of their career, and they usually had great careers, and they are asked what they regret, they usually would tell you that they don't regret creating more or achieving
I
more,
know.
but having more time with their kids, and that is also an ambition by itself. And that's what they really, they they really miss, and they would really do differently. And it doesn't matter who you ask, it's always kind of the same story. And uh, and nevertheless, and we've all known this, and we've all known this also 10 years ago. But I gotta, be honest with you. When I had, my kids, and I was a lot younger than you. I was, I think, 33, my first kid, and 33,
Yeah,
5,
yeah.
7. And that was like obviously right in the middle of me trying to create a career. And I was very, very ambitious. So up until, I think, that my midlife crisis slash divorce and all of this time kind of forced me to reevaluate lots of the things, and how I did things and how I looked at things. My balance was very clearly towards ambition,
Mm.
very clearly. Also because I didn't really know what to do with the kids when they were small. To be honest, I never kind of felt
Yeah.
like I always knew
I
that. I knew this before I had kids, that these small kids, you can't do shit with them. I think it's kind of boring, and
well,
just
well,
watching them
what?
rolling from left to right.
Yeah, of
You
course.
know,
Yeah, yeah. There's a saying who has patience for that, and that's not either of
yeah,
us
that's not
probably.
me. So having said this, and then things changed. I think today I look at this differently. Yet it's still difficult. It's still difficult because it's not like you can, just be 100% full time dad. I don't think that would be the right example for your kids either. And I would kind of like overdoing this, being a father as as an ambition by itself. I
Yeah.
think
Well,
that's also
okay.
a bit too far.
What?
So
Well, let me
balance
ask you
again is the
this.
key question.
Well, yeah, it always comes back to that. But let me ask you this. So when first of all, I had kids at 41 was my first. So it's called that a 8-year gap between you and
Mm,
me.
yeah.
And I think part of that was because I realized I believe that in some way I was inherently selfish. I was like, I need my time. I want to travel the world. I want to like live an awesome life in New York. I want to do great things in my career. Um, and then, I did that. And then at some point I realized, okay, it's time. Like it's now or never to have kids. So you just need to kind of rip that Band-Aid off, by the way. And now, like, it's interesting, like, I'm less selfish, like, I mean, clearly, because 'cause I'm giving so much time to my kids, I feel, but at the nonetheless, my ambition hasn't gone away, and I think that's where it gets really interesting because I feel like and maybe this week is a great example, like, um, we're building things, we're putting things out in the world, and we feel like I've only got so much headspace and time to do it, and so it's never, I think my evolution is that I feeling much more clear-hearted and open-hearted about it. I mean, my priorities are kind of still with the kids. I mean, more than less. But man, how do I hunger to build and give more time to what's next?
Yeah, I mean, one thing you said in the beginning, I always thought that was smart actually to kind of use your 30s to, do selfish things if you want to, create a career and do all those things. And then maybe when you were a bit wiser and you understood, a few things that you might
And
have
had
not
more
understood
money in your bank
and had
account.
more money, and, for childcare and what nannies and stuff to do it then, right? I mean, but at the end of the day, I don't think there's a blueprint for that. I mean, if I think about my kids, my parents had me when they were 26, right? They were also in the middle of creating, and I gave them more time afterwards. Um, Listen, I think to me at the moment is a bit different. I would say because and it's not like I'm not ambitious. I'm very ambitious to do things that I have joy in, and I also have to say that things that take away too much of my freedom and presence, and would eat me alive basically as a project. They don't, that kind of takes joy away then from me, so it doesn't qualify. And but I'm also aware that the things that I've done in the past, like a job like I've done in the past to be, a full-time CEO of a business that is transforming and growing. At the very moment right now, I mean, probably it's, if it's really in front of me, it's a difficult one for me to imagine doing that at that very stage of my life. And I
Right
think
now, you mean?
kind of right now, because it just clicked to me that I could still do it in 3, 4 years time. And I'm just at this in this magic phase of my kid's life where I know the older one is already getting to be a real pain in the ass. And
Mm.
we are talking pre-puberty here. And so I mean 3 months ago I was saying they're all in such a sweet age, and they were. That changed very quickly. So now it's actually just discussing how much time we can have on WhatsApp and blah blah blah. The little one is still super cute with 7, and the middle one as well. So in 5 years' time, that might have changed completely. And in 5 years' time, I'm still 50, not even 50. So I can still do so many things. So I think it is about the balance and understanding what can you get out of the time you have right now. And as we, I think, discussed previously, I don't think it's possible to have it all. And you just have to make, set priorities, period.
Oh, well, I think what you just said is pretty powerful. So, look, I want to say two friends, share two anecdotes of two friends. So, I remember a close friend of mine called me when his youngest of two boys turned 5 and went to kindergarten or something, right? And it called me up. He's like, "Okay, I'm ready. It's been 5 years, like, or 7 years total, right, of managing these kids, right? I've been in a job. I've been, like, just doing, what was, expected of me. I got promoted, blah, 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 blah. Now it's time to really build something great." I was like, "I can't believe you waited 7 years to do that," was what I was thinking, right? But he was very clear-eyed. And I got another one, very close friend who's, like, you know, my age, had twins, super late at life, like 43, like, or 44 even, changing diapers, et cetera. He's a top robotics guy here in New York, building the future. And he's like, I can't build the future while I'm changing diaper. It's a brutal thing. It's got to be one or the other, which is a funny thing. And so, everyone has different answers, but what I find, and I just want to also add a bit of clarity here, because when you say ambition, what I mean by ambition is that it doesn't mean just to stay in a job and kill it, and get promoted and climb up the ladder. To me, it feels like ambition for impact. Like make stuff, put stuff out there, and I think that's an interesting difference to call
Yeah, I know, and I'm always really in awe of people who have that huge goal of making an impact, and I don't have that. I don't have that. No, I mean, I really don't have that. I think the biggest impact I can make, seriously, is the impact I have on the three individuals that are my, flesh and blood, first and foremost.
it.
And and we have the saying, in German that when you clean up, you should start cleaning up in front of your house. And that's kind of what I'm thinking, is that because what is, if I go out there and change something great and have an impact on this planet, which, let's face it, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't fucking matter because it's mainly an impact on your ego and nothing else. And so, start at home, have an impact there, and then kind of grow it from there. That's kind of what I think. And then follow your heart and what's fun, and you're gonna have an impact. And that's kind of how I think about it. And maybe it's just because I'm so aimless and spiritless and visionless that I don't have this great I want to change the world kind of thing going on for me. But I really don't see that. I want to apply myself to things where I can, yes, have an impact, but I don't know if you have to read about this in a book in 100 years time or whatever.
No, no, okay. Yeah,
Wikipedia, you know what I mean? So I'm like,
I do.
I don't, yeah.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, it's funny. Like, there's this great Dostoevsky quote. The Russian um, philosopher and writer. He always said, the soul is healed by being with children, and he writes that in the context of the ambitious soul often keeps running from that very healing. And I thought that was a really kind of interesting thought. Not to get too deep, but you do realize that I say this, but to tie into your cleaning your starting what's in front of your house, right? To clean up, and starting having your impact that way, focused on what's right in front of you, and how that can help shape and sharpen a lot of your ambition, or bring your ambition into clarity.
Yeah, and listen, yeah. And I don't think, it's not about being super dead. I'm sure I do, or I personally, I know I overcompensate some things, right? With trying to be extra there and so on, at the moment. And I'm aware of that, and I'm trying to steer away of that. But if you kind of look at it at the grand scheme of things, right? So we are starting to work, let's say, to make math easy, when we were maybe 20, 25. And realistically, we're gonna work, way past 65. Let's say 70, for the sake of the argument, or 75. So you have 50 working years in your whole life, or let's say 40. So then we also know that we spend 80% of the time with our kids in the age, up until the time when they're 12 years old. So when you have three kids like I do, which is already above average, let's say you have two like you do with a 2 to 3 year average, we're talking about a lifespan. See, now your son is waking up and telling you to readjust your ambitions. So we're talking about 15 years out of, what do we say, 45. That's a third, right? Where you should probably kind of have, besides your, career ambition, also look at your kids, have this time, space, and presence to make them be, great human beings. And that's it. That doesn't mean you can't create something that has an impact that will be quoted in 200 years time.
No, it's true.
And I think that's what it is. I think is acknowledging. I think is being super impatient, acknowledging the fact that, that there's different times in lives with different priorities, and you can still achieve it all over the course of a lifetime. I think we kind of fuck it up because we think we have to achieve it all at the same time.
I think you're dropping a significant bit of wisdom there, my friend. I also think you're benefiting from. Uh, I hope I have that clarity when my
Austrian tap water.
kids. Yeah, when my kids are are your age. I mean, what I mean by is you're further ahead in the parenting journey, and so you're bringing some wisdom. And actually, now that I think about it, that friend of mine who, when he put his 5-year-old into kindergarten, said, "Okay, I'm ready to build," etc. You know what he just did recently? He quit his jobs because he's like, you know what, my kids are getting older, and I have just a few years with them, and to
Exactly.
experience them like they are, so I'm just going to focus on that. And yeah,
But
that
listen,
makes the
you
point.
also talking to the guy that talking to the guy, first kid, I took 3 months off because that's what you do. You have to take time with your newborn. 3 weeks into into this kind of parental leave, I broke my leg so badly that I was on crutches for 6 months. I think
I
in a
remember.
very
Yeah.
deeply rooted cry for attention, right? Because already my inner child was screaming. There is another
uh, uh,
competitor that takes away
uh.
the attention that I crave from my mate. So so much for that, right? Um, and having said this, as I said, 5 years ago, I couldn't imagine. It was also really painful, especially with 3 kids, or 4 years ago, freshly, divorced alone. Then back then, 3 kids aged 3, 5, and 7. That's a completely different story. Doing stuff with them. I remember, man, a holiday in Mallorca. I was about to basically throw myself off this balcony. Yeah, it was horrible, horrible. Yeah, and I didn't see. It was really it was like the most horrible place I've ever been to in my life. Like, I thought I need to be the perfect dad. I need to go in a hotel in Mallorca that had a water slides, and it turned out to be this awful place in Magaluf with like the the most where they had wine come out of a tab in the all you
Oh my
can eat
God. Are
evening
you
buffet,
serious? Oh.
with no, I'm serious, man. I was the only person in there that didn't have a tattoo. The rest were like English. It was. I don't want to talk bad about it, but it was horrible. So in my in me trying to be so good, and I couldn't imagine what I say right now. I think it comes a lot with your kids grow up and they also become more fun, kind of to deal with, and you see more immediate impact of the things you do or you probably have done wrong in the past, and you kind of get this FOMO that they're gonna be out of the in puberty soon and don't want to talk to you anymore. And I think that kind of helps you honing in on that focus that, okay, fuck me, I have this now and it's going to be over soon. While where you are right now, you can't see the end of it, trying to push the pram right now, or getting up at 4 in the morning, or having a kid pee in your bed. That's a very different outlook.
Yeah. This is helpful. It's funny. Like, I didn't know where this was going to go. I was going to put it out, actually, just naming the tension and see where it takes us. But it sounds like, what I'm taking away from this conversation is that like, you can't have it all, nor should you. Actually, it's a bite-sized kind of framework of how or bite-sized type of perspectives of when you're zooming in and zooming out. And I think what was behind this tension also is just because we so value presence and being present in the moment. Like, we know the quality of when we give our attention to a thing, and when we give attention to our children versus not. And I think the desire to do everything well enough requires presence, I believe. It really does. And you can't bifurcate different modes and do them well. And I just think being aware of that is tremendously helpful. Because a lot of us just struggle with it as we multitask, as we try to do X or Y. You know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean. And I think that kind of, I think I wrote something on LinkedIn about this a few weeks ago. This whole topic of being present. And right, I mean, it kind of leads then very quickly into quality time versus quantity, which is true. Actually, you can spend a lot of time with your kids not being present, and that's completely useless, right?
Totally.
Yeah, right. On the other hand, when you say I have 2 weeks in a month, or let's say 4 days in a month. So that's what I wanted to say. And on these days, I really focus only on my kids. That's also kind of bullshit, right? So it is
Yeah.
somewhere in between there. It is about being there. That was always important to me, to be there also when things happen to them, right? When they fall down, the ladder, and they break something and you go to the hospital with them. That's kind of the things they're going to remember, that you were there for them, not kind of you going to Disneyland, to paint two very drastic kind of pictures. But when you have the time to be present, and I find that still very, very hard, very hard.
Have you ever, just to wrap up subject, that's helpful. Is there a super mom or super dad that you feel like models, like, where you're just in awe of? You're like, I can't believe this person gets shit let down like they do. You know what? I realize? No. I have the same answer. No.
No, no. I mean, their dads and moms were really impressed on how they, how they get lots of shit done. But I also know they struggle a lot. I'm not sure they're very happy with it. So I really don't know. I think it's hard, and I think, frankly, also we might take too little time to actually reflect on it. What I find interesting, and maybe that's another podcast, to be honest, is kind of how you would or how I would do things differently, knowing the things I know now, and also kind of how you plan for it and how you set your goals and priorities in different phases of your kid's life, and that journey, and how you balance that also with your partner, because I think that's also a big part in all of this. How do you handle this in a relationship, right? I mean, which are the tasks that you take and the tasks that your
That's right.
partner takes, and we all know, as men, we very very often take much less and feel more overwhelmed with less load. I think that's kind of a given. But I also see now, with the
Men,
benefit of
stop
time. Yeah,
feeling more
what?
overwhelmed with less load. That's
No, man, hey, come on. It's very clear. It's very clear.
very
I mean,
clear.
the mental
I
load is a,
agree.
is a thing, and we have no clue. We really don't have a clue. And I get confused when I have the kids during the week, and I get confused as fuck with all their activities and where they have to be when. Is like it takes so much of my mental space. I'm not sure. I'm not. I mean, it's hard. It's really really hard. So I'm
I
at awe
I
of every
feel like
mom
my
who
wife
organizes
when
this in their
she
jobs. Yeah.
totally. I feel like my wife mocks me every day because she feels like, oh, when it comes to kids and organizing, I'm like a not even a grade school student. I'm like below that, about what I'm able to do and
But
focus.
you're also hopeless. I mean, that's also like who you are is a bit difficult, right? I mean, it's like, you
You
can,
also have your
but
head in the clouds constantly. Exactly.
no, it's true. But also, your wife's super organized and German and da da da, and you are also
Uh,
sometimes a bit like, hi,
yeah,
good morning,
yeah.
how's it going? So it's it's like it's
Spoken
like
like the Austrian isn't that different than the German. Exactly. It's just,
no, but I find that very interesting. Maybe it's just a quick preview of that. I think if we knew also how things could change, and if we were aware, um, of these are 3-4 years where this is my priority and this is what I give up, for everyone,
Mm,
and the other way around, and then things change around. I find it very interesting how things then over the course of probably these that we just said 12-15 years can change, and roles can change, and it's
yeah.
much easier, I think, for me right now to take on more responsibility, to take more load, and I think I'm taking way more load than I did like 8 years ago. So you
Mm.
know but that's a preview, because I think little Valentin here has demands the presence of his father.
Yes, he does. This little guy has just woke up a little bit early. So
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Here we
actually
go.
that's a perfect close to this to this podcast. I was
It
like
is. It
ambition
is
and
actually.
parenthood. Yeah, exactly. Like so um that was a little interruption with baby Valentine waking up. And
Here we
that
go.
is the like that's the point.
Case point. Case in point.
Yeah, exactly. You want to be present and your baby wakes up. But it's c'est la vie. It's a champagne problem to say the least.
No, it is.
Um
It is. What nice one, I think, and maybe nice ones also to kind of continue on, and really curious also to hear, what you guys, our listeners, think. You can always post us a comment or write to us, also on other topics that you might want to hear us talk about.
yeah, and if anyone has any advice for me, let me know because I could use I beyond Paul's wisdom. Uh, what are your tips and tricks for finding the balance between
Yeah, I also need them. I mean, because we know wisdom is also a very theoretical concept, right? So you
that's
then
right.
you know, can be thrown out of the window by reality very quickly, very soon. In any
That's true.
case, Mark, do you have any Terminators and or idiots of the week for us,
I do.
or do you want me to
So
start so you can think of it?
no. I've got so many Terminators. So I'm gonna choose two. Can I do Terminators first? That's good. So
Yeah, you
no,
go
are we
ahead.
doing it? Ah, okay. First of all, we had a super big election results this week in the states. New York has a new mayor. We have new female governors in New Jersey and Virginia, and whatever you think of their politics, they all ran fantastic campaigns, and just in awe of new energy. Everyone always thinks the Democrats are down and out, and they put out crazy numbers, and so it's a heartening bit of pride. And then that's the first bit of Terminators, and the second bit of Terminators is everyone who downloaded and listened to our podcast. I'm feeling deep gratitude
Nice one.
and love for you guys. You?
All right, here we go. I mean, absolutely. That's also mine, but I also have another one.
Okay, good.
And my no, mine is it was my daughter's 7th birthday, and and we went to see a concert for her 7th birthday with her and the 2 boys in Cologne. Actually, it was quite a trip to see Benson Boone, who
You
is
went
my
to
Terminator of the
Cologne?
week, who put out. We went to Cologne. Yeah, yes,
Wait,
we went to
how did you
Cologne.
get to
It
Did
was
you
the
fly
only.
there?
We took a plane. Yes.
Okay, I guess. Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
I
there
was in
are
Cologne.
flights between Cologne. Wow, funny, crazy.
Yeah, plenty actually. And so we flew to Cologne. We went to Lanxess Arena. We saw Benson Boone, who put out an incredible show. I do think that my ex-wife Claudia and I had more fun than the kids because they were really, really tired by the time this whole thing started. But it was a really, really, really cool show. Hats off to the guy, 23 years old, proper rock star, really proper rock star.
Yeah.
Great show, very, very nice. And I also think we are also a bit Terminators of the Week, co-parents of the year. I would say to pull this off is also not I would say selbstverständlich, as we say in
Yeah.
German. Yeah, so
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
very proud of us that we did that, and we had a good time, and the kids also had a good time, and yeah, so that's the Terminator of the week,
Cool.
among
My
others.
idiot,
Yeah.
my idiot of the week, and I just need to, you know, stick with the political theme here. But as you know, our government shut down, so basically they've reduced flights by 20%. You know, in this country because you can't pay for air traffic controllers, which is insane. And then, there's also debate of withdrawing money for food stamps, which is basically it's a crazy time to be in the States. And our idiot president yesterday threw a massive soiree at his Mar-a-Lago kind of event with like big balls, giant steaks, like this kind of insane thing. And you just think to yourself, like, do you not read any history about, like the French Revolution or any kind of thing, how human beings respond to this when others suffer? So that's
Yeah.
my. You could be an idiot week most weeks, but this one just struck to me as especially poignant when things feel like they're cracking.
Okay, that's fair. I'm trying to stay away from politics here. I'm discovering the beauty of naming like things as it is of the weeks rather than people. I feel better about this, and I'm gonna call out like the whole kid's birthday madness. And I also know we've had this before. Remember when I was in New York, because today we had my daughter's birthday in parallel, and also my middle son was invited to a birthday because he's invited to a birthday basically every weekend because of school and soccer club
Oh
and blah
my
blah blah.
god, man.
And I spent, I think, 2 hours in the car today driving back and forth from one to the next day. So I might actually be the idiot that I put up with this shit. But were great parties. But this whole, business around kids' birthday parties and the idiocy of what we go through. And actually, I met a friend, like a friend of mine who brought his kid to, my kid's birthday party. It's like, listen, I gotta go because I have to bring my son, same thing, to a football birthday party. So when I saw him again, when he picked up his kid, it's like, I asked him, hey man, so you look like you just sat in the car for the past 2 hours. And it's like, that's exactly what I did because they were at opposite sides of town. So that was his Sunday afternoon and also mine.
Why do
So
we do this to ourselves? Like we just
anyways,
need to. Yeah,
I have no idea because they will not remember that we did that for them. In fact,
that's for sure.
maybe, yeah.
That's for sure. All right, buddy. Well, listen,
On
great
that
to see you.
note,
Take care.
great to see you.
And
Have a great
thanks for the
Sunday
wisdom.
afternoon with the family and stuff. You.
Likewise.
See ya.
Bye.
Ciao.